Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank the witnesses for being here. And I wanted to begin my comments and then ask a question to Mr. Fugate. You know, in the beginning of your comments, you talked about being here 5 years ago in 2009, and implied in that was, you know, what difference did your testimony then make? What progress have we made since then? What's the value of your appearance here today? And I want to just tell you from my perspective as a member of this committee, you have focused my attention on this problem. I've learned many things today that I did not know before today's hearing. I'm a new member of Congress. This is my first session in Congress, my first session as a member of this committee. And I am now resolved, as I know the rest of this committee is, in ensuring that we correct the mistakes that were made in your individual case and the larger systemic problems that today's hearing has uncovered in these vision centers of excellence and other problems for those who are sight impaired and are working with the VA. So I first wanted to begin by thanking you and telling you that what you're doing today is actually very powerful, very impactful, and it has set up, I think, some excellent questions that this committee will then ask the VA. You're helping us to hold the VA accountable. So I wanted to tell you that. And I also wanted to make you aware of a bill that we authored this session of Congress, H.R. 3045, which would require the DOD to provide every transitioning service member with a portable electronic record so that they have that, they own it, and they can bring it to their visit with a VA doctor, they can bring it to their visit with a private medical doctor, they can just have it and refer to it as they need it. And you've given us a poignant example of why that is so badly needed. I'll say that we have co-sponsors that include the chairman of this committee, the ranking member of this committee, Mr. Walls, Mr. Takano, members from both parties. We'd welcome additional support, but as you continue to advocate on this issue, and Mr. Minnie and Mr. Keble as well, we'd certainly encourage you to make sure that members are aware that we have a bill that would provide part of the solution to some of these problems. Mr. Fugate, offered some good advice when asked what you would ask other veterans to do who might be in your situation. You know, you said that working within the VA you found to be helpful versus working within the private sector. And let me also just say I really appreciate your even-handed description of VA services. You talked about providers both on the physical and mental health side who were there to help you, the great quality care that you got once you got in, despite the unfortunate decision that was made initially. So I really appreciate that. What else? Because besides influencing this committee and the VA, I think there's a wider public that's listening to your remarks today. The veteran who's returning from Afghanistan today, who has sight impairment, what is your advice to that veteran? What would you like them to keep in mind?
I would hope that they would understand that the VA is there for them. It's a veteran community. I've enjoyed sitting in the waiting rooms and meeting veterans from the past wars and their wives and their families, and having coffee with them from down the hall while we're waiting. It's a community, and the system's slow, and you have to reach really deep to find the patience sometimes to allow the system to turn. The system's not turning fast enough. The people in the VA aren't out to get you. They're not against you. The system just is turning too slow. The people care deeply about the returning veterans.
Thank you for saying that, and again, thank you for finding the good within the system that we can build upon while also recognizing the frustrations that you and others have with parts of that system that do not work. Mr. Keble, I'm about out of time, and I may ask you some questions following the hearing, but I did want to follow up on a point that you're making about inaccessibility on the VA's website, and really make sure that this committee's also doing everything it can. Mr. Walls leaned over earlier during your testimony and asked, is this committee's website fully compliant and accessible to you and others who are sight impaired? And I think the answer we received from staff initially is that it is not. So I think we need to do our part to make sure that we're not just blaming the VA and not just holding them accountable, which we should do, but also holding ourselves accountable. You mentioned the Library of Congress as an example of a federal agency that's doing it right. I'm going to have to give my time back to the chairman, but I would like to follow up with you after the hearing to find other agencies and federal departments who are doing the job the right way and see what we can learn from them. So I wanted to thank you and Mr. Minnie also for being here. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will yield back.